Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to this regularly called meeting of the Temple City Council. It is 10 minutes after 5 on Thursday, August 7th. Please rise as the Director of Transformed Temple, Buford Craig, leads us in the invocation, which will be followed by the pledge led by City Secretary Jan Llewellyn.
Lord, give us a humble, lowly, quiet, peaceable, patient, charitable, kind and filial, and tender mind, every shade and fact of charity, with all my words and all my works, and all my thoughts, to have a taste of thy holy blessed Spirit. The things, good Lord, that we pray for, give us the grace to labor for. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you both very much. Now it's time for public comments. Any citizen that desires to address the council on any matter may do so. We ask that you signed up prior to this meeting. Keep your comments, please, to no more than 3 minutes. And please understand also that no discussion or final action will be taken by the city council. We will start with our favorite, Miss Bobby Thompson. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone.
You guys got her ready? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mayor Davis, Ms. Grant, my District 2 Councilwoman, and council members. I'm here today to speak on Don't Forget About.
I can hear you. I'm not having a problem.
Council, did y'all's computer stop working?
Yeah.
Oh, have to join back in.
I don't know the meeting IDs.
We need to,
Oh,
you just hit join on.
I didn't. I don't have a meeting ID. Hopefully.
I am here today to speak about Don't Forget About East Temple. I see the progress you all have made more in the vacant lots and thoroughfares, and I, for one, am grateful and appreciate it. There's a new house on 16th Street. The grass is almost as tall as the house. The tenants, whoever was there, moved or got evicted, but it's too much junk out there. Clothes, toys, bottles, debris. The front yard is covered also with couches. It is an eyesore. You can see it on top of Avenue H overpass, coming from on top of there from going from west to east. On 14th Street, across from Jeff Hamilton Park, the tall grass has jumped back up very high again. All along 14th Street, even down to Central and past by the railroad track, it almost looked like a jungle. Also, the grass on the vacant lot need cutting too. Remember, I love East Temple and the city itself, the people, and the city council. And this is what I'm asking. Help us. Remember, I just want to say this. Could y'all please get some more workers to help get these vacant lots cut? We as senior citizens, and I'm sure I'm one, we have to watch out for snakes, possums, all sorts of critters, and armadillos. I do realize it's been raining a lot. And I wish that these areas be mowed on a regular basis. I'm asking you again, keep East Temple looking good. Thank you. I want y'all to meet. This is my pastor, Reverend Tatum. This is one of my best friends, Miss Alma Stewart. I do have more friends. They not here, but they the one that help me to keep me on the right track, because sometimes I get off. But they put me back on, and I like that. And thank y'all so very much for listening at me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Bobby, we just had a workshop that we, do before every meeting, and we talked just about that, about, the number of workers needed for the mowings and things like that, but also getting around to get those lots cleaned up with the furniture and all that. It really is an eyesore. Really making progress toward those things. We're getting better. We're better now than we were 6 months ago, and I'm sure Councilmember Grant knows about those issues, and I'm sure she'll get those taken care of for you. But again, as always, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. It's good to see you. Next up, Mr. David Rowe. Do we know what we're supposed to do here yet?
Well, I'm on the same subject. I've had problems with trying to keep my alley where it's accessible for me to come through on my car, my pickup, my motorcycle. There's about 8 entries from the alley onto different properties. I try to keep mine in good condition, like the code says, and the ones around that don't do that, the city doesn't do anything about it. I've really had a problem with that, and they want me to tell the code people what the code is that's being violated, where it's at, and all the details about it. The code people ought to know what's the deal. I'd like for them to, I tried to get them to go from Avenue M to Avenue P between 39th and 41st in the alleyway, and they just want me to tell them what it is to make sure they can pick up what the items is that I'm talking about. And they'll leave the stuff beside it. And I know the big containers, they took about half of them out, and they're still, the other half's still there, and they're all heaping full because they're not working the alley anymore, but the people's still putting it in there, so they're gonna have to, somebody come down the alley to get those big cans out. And the ones in the front, I don't know, I'm all for it. There's so many people living in some of these houses around me that I don't see how they can live with that size containers. I've tried to communicate with all of y'all, and I've tried to show you pictures of the conditions, and the same conditions have been there the whole time I've been trying to talk to y'all, and why isn't anything being done about it?
Thank you, sir. You bet. Thank you. It's good to see you. Lisa Carnes?
I just would like to address the bulk trash pickup with these comments, and with trash not being picked up, we're gonna have people dump stuff and rodents, and there was just a comment about snakes, and there are gonna be more, and and it says right there, when we're coming in, bulk pickup every 2 weeks. I mean, it says it on here, which I know has changed, but.
Right. We are, tonight we'll discuss a change to the policy of going from quarterly, which is the one that was recently adopted, to once per month.
Thank you, sir.
So we're
Better.
right. I agree. It's less than before, but better than it has. And it's interesting because a lot of the data that we have coming out now that we discussed during workshop is that based upon the call-ins, we're going to be able to handle that volume well, I believe, the once a month call-in.
Thank you.
So you bet. And thank you for taking your time to come tonight. You bet. All right. Let's move on to the next
Mayor?
item.
Mayor, we have two.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was moving right along.
Chelsea Adams.
Ms. Adams, are you there? Reduce that. And then click on.
We also have Alan Lytle.
Okay.
He's unmuted and ready to go.
Is who, Alan or?
Alan?
Alan, are you there?
I'm here, sir.
All right. What say you?
Thank you for the opportunity to address you once again. Let me first start off by saying thank you all so very much. You just spent the whole afternoon working on the budget and other projects. And so you haven't even had a supper break yet. So I really do appreciate the efforts that the council and the staff put in. And then I need Chief Reynolds' help, because I don't want to mess up Officer Charlie's name. But tomorrow, they're having a memorial service for him at, hang on. I apologize, I had it up.
Vista.
At Vista Community Church at 10 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
If you all can attend, that would be a fantastic thing to show your support for our fallen officer. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for your work with the police department. We appreciate that. Do we have, yeah, is she back?
She's back.
Hi, I'm sorry guys. I had a bit of technical issues here. I wanted to talk about roads. The road conditions are unacceptable going from 93rd Street all the way back to the 67th Street, and that was not unacceptable for me. I don't know. I know what you do. I know where you get the budget from, but that is not really okay. And I also want to mention that you've been hacked by the CCP, fucking niggers. Yeah, you fucking niggers.
Wow.
By CCP loyalist.
Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Are we reconnected?
Yes, we're reconnected and unmuted. We're ready to go.
Okay, very good. Apologies for that. That's embarrassing and disgusting. So we will just move right on with council meeting. So with that, I'm going to end public comments, and we'll move on to the budget items. Item 3 is the is to discuss the proposed tax rate, and item A is to consider adopting a resolution setting a proposed tax rate of $0.6999. Item B is to consider adopting a resolution scheduling the public hearing on the proposed tax rate for 10 a.m. on August 28th, 2025. And item C is to consider adopting a resolution scheduling the adoption of the tax rate for 10 a.m. on August 28th, 2025. Ms. Bernard?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I need to wait just a second to have our presentation pulled up. But as we just, over the last, in the work session, we discussed the tax rate. The tax rate before you tonight is, if voted on tonight, it can go lower but cannot go higher without resetting the calendar. And looking at the budget and tax rate adoption process and timelines for required meeting dates, publications and notices, and motion language is governed by state law, truth in taxation, and the city charter. In the calendar we've been through, seems like forever, working on budget. What began, department budgets were due in April. And tonight, again, at this meeting, you're voting on the proposed tax rate. And then on August 21st, there'll be the first reading considering the approval of the tax roll and levying taxes, first reading for setting the tax rate, and then August 28th is the final adoption of the tax rate, the budget, the tax roll, and levying taxes. But looking at the tax rate calculation, the roll was certified on July 22nd. Last year's tax rate, it was 0.6265 cents. The no new revenue rate was 0.6144, and the voter approval rate was 0.7912, or is, based on the calculation, 0.7912. Unused increment from prior years is 1.2 cents. And again, the voter approval rate with unused increment is 0.8032. The budget was filed with a tax rate of 75 cents. Since our previous work session, staff was directed to come back with a tax rate that was below 70 cents. And that today was, we spent the last 4 hours going over that rate. Can you advance this slide, please? That was just my screen.
That's not the right
No,
screen.
mine's doing the same. You're still showing the 8032 on your screen?
It's different on the big ones.
Okay, again, the filed tax rate in the budget was 75 cents. The staff was directed to come back with a rate that was lower than the 70 cents. And tonight,
Recording in progress.
Is this the right slide, Tracy?
yes. The M&O rate is proposed at 37.5%. It's an increase of 7.78 cents compared to last year's M&O rate. And then the debt service rate,
Please will be turned over.
But he's muted.
okay, the debt rate that's proposed is 32.45 cents. And that's actual 0.44 cent decrease from the prior year's tax rate. And again, the total rate is an increase of 7.34 cents. Just a chart showing that with proposed 2026, the M&O rate is now more than the INS rate of 0.3245. And going back over the calendar, again, we're here to discuss the proposed tax rate and council vote on the proposed proposed tax rate, and it can, I hate to be repetitive, but it can go lower, but couldn't go higher without resetting this calendar. And I'd be happy to answer any questions related to that.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any questions? Jenny, you prepared to take the vote orally? Pardon? No.
You're voting.
Oh, here we go. Now I am. All right. So, council, are there any questions for Ms. Bernard on this? Everybody good? All right. Then, council, I'll entertain a motion on items, and I can take these together, Kathy. Kathy, I can take these together, right?
Yes.
It's all one?
Yes.
All right. Council, I'll entertain a motion, as I read in, on items 3A, B, and C.
I'll make a motion to approve items 3A, 3B, and 3C.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Budget items 3A, B, and C all passed 5 votes to 0. Moving on to the consent agenda. All items that are listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by any council member on any particular item, that item may be removed for a separate consideration from the consent agenda. Council has discussed during workshop. We will be removing items, we'll be removing item 4C from the consent agenda. So I will entertain a motion, council, if there's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion on item 4A through 4U minus item 4C.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda items 4A through 4U minus 4C.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Grant. We have a second by Councilmember Kirkendall. Council, please cast your vote. Item 4A through 4U minus 4C passes 5 votes to 0. Item 4C is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a purchase and installation of playground equipment for Lions Park from Game Time of Fort Payne, Alabama, in the estimated amount of $467,397.59. Parks and Rec Department has asked that we table item 4C to a future date.
August 21st.
August 21st? That we're going to table item 4C to August 21st. Council, I'll entertain a motion on that item.
Move to table item C till August 21st.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote on 4C. The postponement of item 4C passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to the regular agenda is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance approving a rezoning request and a binding site plan agreement from Ag to Planned Development General Retail on 8.73 plus or minus acres located in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 11717 and 11535 West Adams Avenue. Mr. Deckman.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. You see the schedule, this first reading, no controversy. We'll be back here at second reading on consent agenda for a planned development general retail for a business office park in West Temple. So you see on the two maps on the screen, on the left shows that it's just off the intersection of 2271 and Morgan's Point Road. And on the larger aerial photo, you see it's on that curve of Adams Road, or excuse me, Adams Avenue. And it's a fairly undeveloped and thickly wooded piece of property that they're proposing for development. Call your attention to two other things on the aerial photo is the Lakewood neighborhood, the residential to the east with those homes, and then there's some commercial properties to the west and across the street. So that kind of dichotomy is a defining feature of this property and informs some of the conditions for the development. So we've got some site photos for you, looking kind of around that curve on Adams in the upper left, looking back towards some of the commercial areas where there's a liquor store, a realtor's office, some other businesses, looking back towards that busy intersection, as well as on that lower left, looking across to some of the other commercial properties. And then the lower right is a little bit further east, looking towards that residential neighborhood. So there's certainly a transition of uses in this area. So the background, it's just under 9 acres. They're proposing, planned development, general retail, which allows a number of uses, but since it's a planned development, we can put some conditions in to guide the development. The developer has offered 2 things right off the start. One, you see on the right-hand side, there's what they're calling a vegetated buffer, 20 feet wide, to give some separation to those homes to the east. The other thing they're talking about, they don't have tenants or specific businesses identified yet, but for the buildings that are going to be constructed next to those homes, they're going to limit themselves to a single-story height at the rear of the building, next to where you see, you're going to have those 20 feet worth of thick trees, and then a single-story height, to prevent that looming effect that we've heard complaints about in other zoning cases. And we've talked to them about preserving the trees that are there and not cutting down the trees too soon. If you are going to cut other trees on the property, preserve the trees in the vegetated buffer that you're going to have. That's your cushioning for your neighbors. So there's certainly an agreement on that. We did talk to them about access management. Being that this only has frontage onto Adams, we know Adams is a busy road. Is it possible to have a back door? And initially, when we approached the idea to the developer, he was against it. Once we talked through some of the pros and cons, he's open to the idea. It's going to require buy-in from the neighbors. They see the value, but there's also a risk to it in that you create a cut-through. We know that's a busy intersection, especially at peak hour in the afternoon. If you create an easy way for people to skate around that congestion, that's as much of a problem as the congestion. But from an emergency access standpoint, you'd like to have an additional way in when that traffic queue runs all the way back Adams. Is there another way for emergency vehicles to get in? So that hinges on 2 things. 1, the type of businesses that get developed there, and 2, cooperation with the neighbors. So the developer's open the idea, as the businesses come in, we'll walk through it, we'll talk about it during site plan with DRC. If it's busy drive-through restaurants, it may not be the best idea. If it's a lower traffic use that's not going to induce a lot of traffic, may be a better idea. In the design of the parking area itself, if you make it too complicated to get through, you don't save any time trying to sneak through the private property. So the concept is on the table. It's not something that we're requiring as part of this ordinance, but just know that staff is looking at that very closely. And the other people that are looking closely, the day we took this to P&Z, TxDOT informed the applicants, they are going to be required to produce a TIA to evaluate the volume of traffic, the turning movements, and the conflict points created on Adams Avenue. So there's going to be some additional oversight for the traffic of this project. So Adams is a major arterial. Does make sense for commercial and retail office properties on an arterial. There's plenty of existing utilities. There's 12-inch water on the front. Sewer runs down the western boundary. And that dichotomy I'm talking about is reflected in the future land use map, that the east side is in the future residential neighborhood services in the yellow. The west side is the corridor mixed use in the pink. There's a condition that speaks to that, and we'll get to that shortly. So we did do some traffic analysis of safety and current volumes. The current volume on 2305 or West Adams is about 14,000 cars a day. Some people would argue that all comes at 5 o'clock, but it is a busy road. 2271 appears nearly as much. The pattern there that you'll see is that it's on the southern leg and the eastern leg. So not as much if you get on Morgan's Point or going west towards the lake. So that is the traffic pattern in that area. Most of the day, that road does function normally. It just gets congested during peak hour. That's a function of us being a growing city of 100,000 people. What can we do to keep people safe? Keep an eye on the traffic trends and the patterns of the crashes. In the last 5 years, we've seen 48 crashes, 35 of them at that intersection. 3 serious injuries, 4 minor injuries, 1 fatality that's a little bit east up towards Richland Drive. It's that red dot at the top diagram. It was a single vehicle DUI crash. More of the common factors were that failure to yield those left turns at those intersections, as well as people speeding and not paying attention. We did send out 24 notices to the property owners within 200 feet. Just received one this morning, so we're up to 3 notices in agreement. There's a marked with the green A, 1 in disagreement from the property owner to the east, shown by that red D, and the newspaper printed the notice on July 10th. In terms of the compliance summary, both for the zoning and plan developments, that is a yes, that there are public facilities available. It is compliant with the thoroughfare plan, that there's thought going towards the traffic and the access. That's really going to come out of that TIA process with TxDOT staff, and the applicant will be involved in that. Knowing that that is happening, we're comfortable, and then the landscaping and screening by that 20-foot vegetated buffer. Staff is comfortable saying that yes, it's a yes to all the categories and the criteria. At the July 21st meeting, P&Z voted 7-1 to recommend approval. The 1 vote in disagreement was one of the commissioners who lives near that area, and her concerns were for the traffic that would be increased by this project. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning from ag to planned development general retail with a binding site development plan subject to these conditions. So the site plan, as it is binding with that vegetated easement. Exhibit B, we're going to codify that a little bit by putting it into the ordinance for the 20-foot buffer, as well as the 1-story height for the buildings next to the residential. Restaurants will be prohibited next to the residential property. So follow that future land use map. The restaurants will be over in that pink corridor mixed use, away from the homes, closer towards the other commercial uses. They will have to go through platting. The plat will reference this ordinance. West Adams is an arterial. By code, it requires a 6-foot sidewalk, so we're going to add that to the ordinance. Mandating that lighting fixtures are designed to minimize spillage and glare. Minor variations can go through the Director of Planning and DRC review. Significant modifications will come back to P&Z and to you for your review and approval. So I'll take any questions that you may have on this.
Thank you, Mr. Deckman. Council, anything for Jason?
Not a question, just more of a statement. I really appreciate the developer being so thoughtful as to leave the vegetated buffer and the single story next to the single family homes. That really goes a long way with being a good neighbor, so I'm very appreciative of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Agreed. Anything else? Okay, item 5 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak may do so. We ask you step to the podium and state your name for the record, or no? Okay, all right.
There's not a virtual platform tonight, so out of an abundance of caution, I would probably recommend that we add these items that have public hearings with public hearings for the second reading at our next meeting, just in case someone who was intending to speak online couldn't do so tonight. So I think you're good to continue on with all of the items, but let's just, Mr. Deckman mentioned it'll be on consent agenda. My recommendation is let's not do that. Let's put it back on and have a second public hearing, just in case someone legitimately was trying to speak tonight.
I agree. I agree.
Vote on it and do that at the
Yes,
second.
this will not prevent going
slow
forward
everything down.
tonight. Just typically, you would only have one public hearing, so we can add it back as a public hearing. But all of these ordinance already require second reading, so it won't affect the property owners in any way.
All right, very good. Then anyone from the audience would like to speak tonight? Anyone for the public hearing? Nothing? All right. Then with that, I will close the public hearing, and council, if you have no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on item 5.
Good developer, and he's got a history of doing a good product, and I have no doubt this will This will be in addition to the area, and therefore I move to approve as was presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 6 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the release of 1.343 plus or minus acre right-of-way easement subject to a public utility and drainage easement situated in the Baldwin-Robertson Survey, Abstract 17, Bell County, Texas, and legally described as embracing all of Hog Pen Creek Road and a portion of South Pea Ridge Road. Mr. Nutter.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to go through, Transportation Code Chapter 311 is what gives the city authority over the streets and alleyways. And specifically 311.007 explains that a home rule city may vacate, abandon, or close a street or alley, but it requires a public hearing to be held, which is why we do this. So this is primarily the Hog Pen Creek Road right-of-way. The total area that they're looking at is in the red there on the screen, and it's about 1.343 acres. It is going to be developed along with the property they own, the Chuck's Barbecue subdivision there. And it's going to be developed into a bank. But basically what they're going to do is they're going to cut off Hog Pen Creek Road so it won't connect to Adams, so they'll actually get rid of the conflict point there. And it'll be a driveway that extends over to South Pea Ridge. As you can see, it does take a portion of the South Pea Ridge right-of-way over there. They will be redeveloping that to work the drainage in the area a little bit better, improve the drainage. And it will be necessary for us to maintain an existing sewer easement. If you see, we've got a sewer easement going right at the north point of that Chuck Barbecue subdivision. It continues on through this area that we're going to have to deal with, and so they will be maintaining that, as well as any drainage easement necessary for the development. So the recommendation is to approve abandonment of 1.343 plus or minus acres right-of-way consisting of the Hog Pen Creek Road and a portion of South Pea Ridge Road. And this would be sold at fair market value, as I've explained before, though I'm waiting on the appraisal at this point, so I don't know how much that is.
Thank you, sir. Council, any questions for Kyle?
Is it called Chuck's Barbecue Subdivision?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I thought maybe you just made that up.
I believe we're actually going to
In that Sage Meadows?
as well, so
Bank on it?
probably
Okay, yeah.
have a different name.
Extra cover.
Business, right?
Yeah, okay, just checking. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Some people are very literal with their plat names.
Yeah.
Yes, we've noticed.
I was driving down Waco Road the other day and I saw Mama and Pawpaw Road. Remember when we approved
remember
that?
that? Yes.
Mama
Me
and
too.
Pawpaw. So, all right, very good. If this item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, step to the podium and state your name, please. Even if you have a better name for the subdivision, those are being accepted. Okay, very good. Then I will close the public hearing and council entertain a motion if there are no further comments.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Kirkendall. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. Item 6 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 7 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing an amendment and adopting the tax increment financing reinvestment zone number 1 financing and project plans to align with the master plans, including adjustments to debt service, projects, and public improvements for fiscal years 2025 through 2062. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The Reinvestment Zone Board approved this financing plan amendment at their July 21st meeting. Just a summary of the proposed source of funds. it was from reprioritizing some projects, and they had some money allocated for land acquisition that was no longer needed, and that was 1.2 million. There was over 5.3 million of funds available or became available due to the release of reserve funds by replacing that with an insurance policy. One of the 2,990,000 became available when the refunding bond, the 2018 bonds were refunded on May 15th, 2025, and the release of the other two reserve funds in replacement with a surety insurance will be on your August 21st meeting. Again, those three amounts add up to a little over right around 5.3 million, and those can now be used for projects and instead of being held in a reserve fund through the life of the bonds. The other amounts, the proceeds from the refunding bonds, those are more just accounting entries to reflect the actual refunding. And then the other source of funds, it was an average of close to $70,000 over the remaining life of the bonds that were refunded in savings. The allocation of those funds, little over $1 million, or right close to $1.1 million was allocated to the construction account for the outer loop from I-35 to Windland. There was also some dollars allocated for some right-of-way that was needed on Old Howard Road. You'll see the two insurance policies that you'll consider on 8/21, the cost of those to buy the surety insurance. And then there's dollars allocated for Windland Road Extension and Power Drive. The design of that road for $693,800, and the allocation of construction funds of a little over 4.6 million, but the total cost of the whole extension and Power Drive is estimated to be 8.5 million, so it's not funding the whole project. And then the last three items are, again, the accounting type entry for the bond refunding. And then the savings from the bonds were allocated to just a general public improvements account. And that is a summary of the financing plan amendment. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, anything for Ms. Bernard? Item 7 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, ask that you step to the podium. There being none, council, if there's no further questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion on item 7.
Make a motion to approve item 7.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Kirkendall. Council, please cast your vote. Item 7 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 8 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending Chapter 15 of the Code of Ordinances related to collection of brush refuse and bulky garbage to allow monthly rather than quarterly collection of each on a request basis. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. You received an in-depth presentation on this item during your work session. It should be labeled as number 8, and it's chapter 15. We'll go through this much more quickly, but just working off memory as we're going through some of these, get the slideshow up. We'll go through this a little more quickly than we did in work session, but by all means, if there's anything that you'd like me to elaborate on during this meeting, please feel free to ask questions. So just a reminder, prior to July of 2025, we had brush and bulk collections 2 times monthly, which is the equivalent of 24 per year. In July of 2025, that switched to quarterly collection for each of those services. And in conjunction with that, during that same time frame, we had a contractor that did a full sweep of the city to help kind of get everything back in line. We have just started this week, our first week of call for service collections, and we have received significant feedback with customers that feel that we need a little bit of additional service there. So we want to make sure that everyone knows we heard you. And what we've done is put together a proposal that we feel is kind of a middle ground that still allows us to provide a relatively reliable level of service and couple that with a more frequent collection. Under the proposed ordinance that's in front of you tonight, it proposes everything that was already in the quarterly collection. The only change is that goes from a quarterly collection to a monthly collection. One monthly collection for bulk items and one monthly collection for brush. And those are still by request. We still ask that those piles be separated and yard clippings be placed in compostable bags. But changing that frequency to monthly rather than quarterly. That process, just generally speaking for the public's information, a customer makes a phone call into our customer care center. There's a series of acknowledgments that are required there around what can and can't go into those collections and how they should be placed at the curb. They will then be provided with a date of service that is a week. So Monday through Friday, that collection will occur one day that week, and you'll be given the week that it would be collected. Those are passed our solid waste team. They develop the route, and then those collections occur that following week. Just a couple of quick highlights on additional services that are offered by our solid waste team that some may or may not know about. We do offer an annual household hazardous waste event where you can bring things like paint or electronics, refrigerators that need Freon to be taken out of them. We offer 18 planned dumpster drops per year. Those are typically lined up with our neighborhood planning districts.
And those can be found where?
And they can be found on our website. If you just Google City of Temple dumpster drop, you can find that link, and I believe there's also social media events that are posted on our Facebook page.
And that link will have a map of where they are.
Yes, sir.
Right.
We do offer unlimited brush drop-off at our solid waste complex, so if you have brush that needs to be dropped off Monday through Friday, that can be dropped off at the solid waste complex, along with document shredding is also available Monday through Friday there. We have 2 organized document shredding events per year. Those are on Saturdays and allow businesses or residents to come drop off any documents they need shredded. In addition, there are 12 monthly landfill trips that are available with proof of a utility bill, and those are free of charge. And we'll be adding 2 new bulk days at our solid waste complex to be thought of kind of as like a spring and fall cleanup event where we'll have roll-offs if folks are needing to dispose of bulky items at that time. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions or go into any further detail that you may want. And I would just say as a reminder, the item as presented is for 1 monthly collection for bulk and 1 monthly collection for brush. If you do have a desire to vary that in any way, shape, or form, you have that freedom to do so. Just feel free to include that in a motion.
Thank you very much. And I know the other council members appreciate the quick action by staff on this. We were inundated. Looking at you. But no, and really that, to me, in many ways, that's government at its best. We heard, we changed, and we're moving right along, which is great news. Can you take just a second? I know I'm putting you on the spot. It was in our presentation earlier, but about sort of the volume of the number of appointments or calls that can be taken, and the anticipated volume that the number of stops that the city can make.
Right. So with a full fleet of trucks, that's 8 grapple trucks that can pick up. We have the ability to pick up just over 7,600 stops per month. So we have currently 34,000 residential customers, give or take, a little bit less than 34,000 residential customers that have that service. So in theory, if everyone wanted 1 bulk pickup and 1 brush pickup every single month, that's 68,000 stops, and we're capable of picking up 7,600 stops. So from a utilization perspective, if every one of in the city just decided we need to dispose of brush in bulk once a month, every month. We do not have the bandwidth to be able to do that. What we plan to continue to monitor as we're moving through this process is what that utilization rate looks like as a city. This call for service model is going to allow us to understand better what percentage of our customers are using that service, how regularly are they using it, and what that utilization rate looks like, so that we can continue to modify these services to fit the community and make sure that we're getting things taken care of without unnecessarily having to just drastically grow the amount of trucks and staff that we need to pick up that service.
Very good. Thank you.
And I want to make clear and make sure you correct me if I'm wrong, but in times of a big storm like our tornado or something last year, we're not holding people to this. We will make extra efforts to get out trucks.
Correct. Our intention would be that, as we saw during our tornado event last year, we would look to supplement these services with either additional contract services or additional, if we can handle them in-house, additional collections that, if somebody just used their monthly collection and we have a massive storm, we would intend to have that additional collection available for those in times of need.
Very good. Thank you. Council, anything else for Mr. Olson? This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this may do so. Just ask you step to the podium. Nothing? All right, then I will close the public hearing. And council, I'll entertain a motion on item 8.
So moved.
I'll
Move
second it.
approval.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kirkendall. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, cast your vote, please. Item 8 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 9 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing an amendment to the site and development plan on approximately 7.903 plus or minus acres in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 7955 Hogan Road. Mr. Chandler.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. And so this is just a single reading. This is a resolution. The zoning is in place for this use. And so it's really just the site plan that we're looking at. And this is at 7955 Hogan Road. It's just under 8 acres. So you can see it's at Hogan Road, but it also is at the South Pea Ridge turn, backs up to Hogpen Creek and future trailway. And on the right, you can see the aerial. And so this property may look familiar to you all. Probably not from 2004, but that's when the original zoning was approved. An amendment to the site plan and also some conditions was approved in 2023 for a proposed apartment complex. It has since been sold and is proposed for a Church of Latter-day Saints facility, house of worship. And so the use is allowed by right and within the zoning district, but looking at the site plan, there are some screening requirements adjacent not only to the existing neighborhood, but also to agriculture zone property, which includes the tract owned by the city for the future trail. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, because they are going to provide screening where it abuts residential, but we have agreed with the applicant that screening adjacent to the trail, and I say screening, a fence or a solid vegetative buffer would not be required. And so that is to your discretion. And so the building is proposed to be just over 18,000 square feet. Also would include a storage building and pavilion, 284 parking spaces, on-site detention to meet our drainage requirements. And so you can see the site plan here. And you can also see lots of vacant space to the west, which will all be landscaped. So they're proposing 55% overall landscaping, 11 times, if my math is correct, what we would require as the minimum 5%, and the landscape would include shrubs, trees, ground cover, but also landscape parking islands, which is great, certainly in the summer. Find that shady spot. They would also provide the vegetative screening along the east property line, so a hedge, but adjacent to the other residential to the south would be wooden fencing to meet our screening requirements. Hogan Road is a community collector, and so probably a reminder to you all and new information to some of the public that this section of Hogan Road is part of a capital improvement program project that is slated to begin in March or April of next year. And so that would add sidewalks on both sides of the street. So these folks wouldn't be responsible for installing the sidewalk. We're doing that. But it would also add a continuous turn lane, so 3 12-foot lanes to match other sections of Pea Ridge and Hogan. Water is available via an 18-inch line to the south of the property, and this project has been reviewed by our Development Review Committee, which does include the Fire Marshal, Fire Department, who has confirmed that 3 private hydrants would be required along Hogan Road. They're certainly fine with that, but that'll be addressed during the subdivision plat. Sewer is available via 24-inch line, and you can see that's along Hogpen Creek to the west, and so within that kind of future trail easement. I also should clarify that that is floodplain and I believe even floodway, a lot of that. So the realities of that ever being developed and requiring screening are very minimal. So staff does recommend approval, and so did the Planning and Zoning Commission at their July 21st meeting, subject to the following conditions: that the 2004 ordinance, the rest of those conditions still apply, and that compliance with the site plan, which includes the landscaping, building renderings that they have also provided, any major changes would come back to you all as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. The fencing and screening, as we discussed, with the exception of that screening along the west property line. Subdivision plat is required, and then compliance with the fire code as we previously discussed. And I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant and their design professional are here as well in case you have any questions for them.
Thank you. Counsel, anything additional for Mr. Chandler?
Just a statement again, that this is a real upgrade, I think, from the busy apartment complex to a house of worship. I think they're going to be a really good neighbor and an integral part of that neighborhood. So this is a big win, I think.
Anything else? All right, counsel, with that, I'll entertain a motion on item 9.
Right, to approve item 9 as submitted.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 9 passes 5 votes to 0. Before we adjourn tonight, I want to take just a minute to ask everyone to be sure to keep the Temple Police Department in your prayers. Most of you know that we lost an officer, Charlie Amua, last week to an off-duty drowning. And Officer Amua's brother is on the force here. So there's that loss. And then both of his parents are still alive, his wife, Kelsey, and a couple of little ones. So this is a tragic and trying time in their family. And in our TPD family, I know that Chief Reynolds has done everything that he can to keep the group together and keep everyone focused on task at hand. But it's still, anytime you lose someone, it's difficult. And this is this has reverberations across the whole department, across the whole city. So just be sure and keep that group in your prayers, and Officer Amua's family in your prayers ongoing. They're gonna need a lot of lifting up. So, thank you all for that. It is currently 10 minutes after 6, and our meeting is adjourned.